Hello, and welcome to the Next Out Nonstop Podcast. My name is Erica, and I'm your host. On today's episode, I brought one of my fellow Sky Divas to the show, and we're going to discuss what the flight attendant life actually looks like. Next Out Nonstop is a travel and lifestyle podcast that promotes the importance of traveling and mental wellness for millennial women. We discuss everything from travel to dating and careers to mental health. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for entertainment purposes only. Alrighty, well, once again, welcome. Today I have my fellow co-worker, Miss Brianna here. She is a flight attendant, and we're about to get into it. This is the flight attendant life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. So, Miss Brianna, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Bri Henderson. I go by Bri to my friends. I've been working as a flight attendant for the past 6 years. Actually, today is my 6-year anniversary.
Hey, congratulations.
2016 is when I started. So I'm super excited. I guess I'm celebrating here on this podcast.
Love it. Well, in that case, let's get right to it. So that means since you've been here for 6 years flying, you got some information for us. And do you mind if I tell them what you're about to get into?
Yeah.
Okay. And so Miss Rihanna is actually, she got accepted to the International Purser Program. So that's big ups to her. All right, well, congrats on that. Congrats on the anniversary. All right, let's get right to it. So first question, did you have any expectations coming into this career? Why or why not? And explain.
Any expectations? My only expectation was to have a good time. Like, I saw longevity in this career. I saw myself just traveling the world. Like, it was a dream of mine since I was 14 years old.
No
And
way.
hey, dreams come true.
I love it.
Yeah, my first flight I took was a continental flight out of Chicago. It was like a family vacation. I was like 14, and we went to Orlando. Went to Orlando.
Love it.
And it was a Black flight attendant on our plane. And I was like, oh my God, I want to be just like her. And I mean, through college and odd jobs on the way, I became a flight attendant. So.
That's wonderful. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is that there's so much representation now that I'm in the career. Because, I mean, I would say, I guess I've only flown before I started this job. I think I flew maybe twice. I was 12 and then I was 23. And so those were the only times that I flew. Matter of fact, 9, 12, and 23. So when I was 12 or 11 or something like that is when 9/11 happened. And my family flew out to go see Sade in Ohio, and we could not get back at all. We were on a 17-hour bus ride from Ohio to Maryland.
Wow.
It was nuts. So yeah, I totally get that instance of having that, the idea. Now, I never thought about being a flight attendant prior to me actually becoming one. My father was like, oh, Southwest is hiring. And I was like, well, I don't know. And I was like, I'll just apply. I applied to like 15 different places and I started getting the call back. So I went to a regional interview and I didn't get that. And then I started, applying to other places and I finally got in. And I was just like, once I got in here, I was like, I'll only stay for like 2 years. I'm not going to be in this lifestyle
You
too
one
long.
of those.
Baby, I didn't expect it, right? And so once I got into it, and I was like, well, wait a minute. There's no way I can go back to a 9 to 5. It's just nuts, right? So I was like, as soon as I started seeing some more Black flight attendants, it made me feel like this was a place for me because I wasn't sure getting into it. Right?
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
beautiful.
When I got into it, and I think that it has met my expectations. And at some points in this career, I mean, it also has its highs and its lows. So it's met, exceeded, and has definitely fell under. But overall, like, I have no real complaints, and I am grateful, even when I'm feeling ungrateful about the career.
I feel that though.
Comments.
I get that, and it's just nice, especially just being here and just meeting the people, like meeting you, and it just feels now, since I've been in it so long, it just feels like this is where I'm supposed to be. So all right, we're gonna go to the next question. Do you know anyone in aviation before you got into this field?
One of my good friends from my hometown, she applied with Spirit and she got an interview and ultimately went on to get the job with them. And so I was like, let me try. And I had applied previously and I got denied. So I was like, let me try again since my friend got hired. And she's like, oh, Spirit is a great company. They're new. It's up and coming. It'll be easy.
Mhm.
Or just kind of like talking it up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let me
Well, I
try this.
mean,
My adrenaline was pumping. So I'm like, all right, let me try this. So
yeah.
I first went through the motions in the interview. I didn't get an interview. I went through the application process and I did not get an
Mhm.
interview. I did not get called back. I got denied. And that was probably maybe like 6 months to a year
Okay.
later. I applied for another airline and I was like, if I don't get, then I was just gonna go through the hierarchy like Delta, American,
Mhm.
Southwest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kept getting denied, just going to the next one, to the next one. And then literally the process was so fast. Like I applied for them like on a Monday. I got an email the next day to do the video interview. And then the very next day, or maybe even 48 hours later, it was like, let me fly
Mhm.
you. We want to meet you.
Yep.
Like it just went so fast. And then
Oh, I love that.
I had a woman who was at my church. She was from Chicago, and her friend worked, and so she was kind of like giving me a little pointers. So that was another.
Mhm.
I guess she helped me, kind of.
Nice.
My process was it had its trials and its tribulations.
Yeah.
But ultimately, obviously, it paid off. I'm here, sitting here, talking to you about it today,
I
and now
love it.
international purser.
International purser, darling. And it's just funny because even now, so I haven't actually said it until just now. I officially become an international purser tomorrow. And I am so excited. So by the time everybody sees this and hears this, I am officially an international purser. Okay, darling. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Um,
But yeah, so I would have never thought that I'd be in this position. It's just interesting going from like, oh no, I don't really know about it to then starting and I'm like, oh, I'm only going to be here for 2 years and all of a sudden I'm here 7 years, almost 8 years now and now here I am as an international purser. So I'm just like,
beautiful. Your journey has
you
just
know, it
come
just
full.
develops as it
Yeah.
yeah, it just develops as it does and for me I think the biggest thing was just kind of rolling with it. Whatever happens, whatever I feel, whatever just makes sense to me in that moment, do it. Try it. Because the worst thing that can happen is I don't like it and I go back to, being a regular flight attendant. So
Same.
it's not, it wasn't a big deal to me, but I think it's going to be something that I actually really enjoy. So I am super excited about it.
Yeah,
So,
good.
yeah,
No,
and I can't wait.
same way. And that's
Yeah.
how we met, viewers.
Exactly, right? So, yes, we actually were in the same interview, I don't know if you wanna call it a class, but, like, an interview group, and, we met, and so it was, I wanna say 5 of us, I think it was, and so we did our interview together, and, we decided to keep in touch just in case, that way we know somebody when we come through here.
You
We
always
know
trying to be nosy, like, did she make it? Did she
did
okay?
she get it or did she not? I was texting, I was like, "So, what's good? What you doing?"
No, seriously, I'm like, ooh, like it's kind of mortifying a little bit to be like, I didn't get
Yeah.
it. I mean,
I
but you
know.
can always try again. There's always other opportunities. Like,
Absolutely.
so
Whether
it's
it be charters or this
yeah,
or just anything, you know what I mean? And as of right now, we are both in the program. I graduate tomorrow and you coming in next month. So we're good. We're good. So I just love it. And I love that we have a bond, realistically. You know what I mean? Even though we didn't necessarily go to the classes together,
I
we
wish
have that.
we would have gotten the same
I
class.
know. I
That
know. I know. All right. Well, let's see. What's something that has surprised you about this career and explain to us why?
everything like you haven't imagined it, you imagine how it's gonna be, you
Mhm.
always think like, oh, this is gonna be great, I'm gonna be living this lavish lifestyle. I honestly, like, the layovers kind of surprise me.
Why so? Why so?
Because I feel like they are all really short, like even the 24-hour ones. I feel like you at least need 2 days, like, in Paris and Rome. Like, with Rome is like an 8-hour flight, and they literally give you
Yeah,
24 hours, and that's one of the best
yeah.
cities. Like, we always have the longest layovers in the lamest cities.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what?
It's just like, and I guess, like, also with I knew about the whole hierarchy, the junior seniority thing, but
Mhm.
it's different when you really, really feel it.
When
Like,
you live in it. Yeah.
yeah, like you really don't get to go these places that you want to
Yeah.
go all the time
Yeah.
or at all, or it might take a year or you'll be on reserve and it's just super
Yeah.
random. So
Yeah.
it's like, honestly, we have a lot of control, but there's also a lack of control as well
Mhm.
that kind of surprised me when I first got it. I didn't get my first international trip until almost 3 months in, while there's other people going to Paris every.
Mm.
I was pretty shocked because I just knew my first trip was gonna be Paris, and
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that because my very first trip was to Berlin, Germany. And I was like, "Oh my god, I love this place." I like and then I realized that I hadn't gotten another international trip for like a year. And I was like, "How does that work?" I wanted to go somewhere special, but I was based in Newark first. Were you always based in
right.
DC?
Oh, yeah, I was always based in DC.
Okay,
But
okay. Well, I feel like it was a little different then.
it seemed you had guys have all the internationals, so why?
Well, yeah, I give you that. But
Like,
I mean, I don't know. I know when I started, they tried to give the new hires some of those like really great trips. Because I think my first trip to Berlin, the whole crew just paid for everything for me. They were like, "You want food? We got you. You want drinks? We got you. You want to go on a hop on, hop off bus? We got you."
oh,
And so it
that's
was real nice, because before us, they hadn't seen any new hires for what years? I don't even 3, 4 years or whatever it was. So it's good to know the layovers surprised you. Because the,
yeah,
the one thing that surprised me, I think, was actually the schedule. Now, that reserve schedule, I didn't realize it kind of feels like a full-time job, but I was only working part-time. So you're making part-time money for a full-time job initially. And so that's a lot to deal with when you're not mentally. I mean, they tell you ahead of time, but it's like it's different when you actually experience it. And
yeah,
and you
yeah.
were right when you said that.
Yeah, the reality of the whole thing. And I guess when I came into it, like I was 23, I barely had any money anyway, but
Yeah.
for whatever, I still work. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to go on layovers and I want to be
Yeah.
there for 48 hours, not
Yeah.
24. So I think
Oh,
about
you trying to be bougie, huh?
yes, like this hotel is comfortable, like
Yeah.
please. 'Cause you
You
know
are
what?
so silly, but I get that.
The
Huh?
Ghana trip and the Lagos trip and the Sao Paulo trip is they're
Have you
all.
been?
I went to Ghana recently. Well, in
Oh, how
January,
was
I
it?
went to Ghana. That was
How
my.
was that?
It was great. Like I enjoyed myself. I actually on my flight on the way back. I was on the flight that had the baby.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god, and it's funny because, like, when we go through our trainings and stuff and they talk about emergency situations, I think about that all the time right now because 'cause I'm like, "How in the world would I have handled that?" Somebody actually delivering a baby on a plane. H What okay, we're gonna take a break from the questions for a second. Tell me about that situation. Tell me, like, how did any of that happen?
The woman was 9 months pregnant. I remember, so I was initially when I got the trip off, standby. I was on
Mm,
standby, and I actually was slotted in the purser position, and, you have to go and get the COVID test, so I had to go out of security
yeah,
and all that. The plane was already boarded when I got there, so somebody
okay.
else took the purser position. I mean, it didn't matter to me. I'll do it for the extra money, just for
Yeah,
that.
hello?
So I ended up not working the purser position, so,
Okay.
my position was in the back of the plane. And so it happened between first and second break. And the woman, when she walked on the plane during boarding, I noticed her because I was like,
She's real pregnant. Yeah.
yeah, like that was the thought. And I was like, I hope you don't have a baby on the plane. Like this is in my mind. I
Could
never
you
said
imagine?
this out loud to anybody. Like
Yeah.
I literally just saw her like, she's huge. And she could have this baby on this 10-hour flight. So yeah, we get off break and I hear them calling for a medical professional. And honestly, I honestly did not think that it was her. I thought it was somebody else. And I'm like,
Yeah.
whew, thank God I'm in the back. So then the flight attendants that were in the front walked in the back and they were like, I think we're about to have a baby. And I was like, what? Her? She's about to have this baby. So it was like a whole, maybe we were mid flight. So it was like a whole 5 hour period
Oh my god.
between the time mid flight and the time we landed. She had the baby. And it was just a lot of running back and forth, getting a lot of blankets to soak up fluids and kind of
Yeah.
comfort the mother and, just playing runner. And I was just
Oh,
more so the person manning the cabin. I kind of took myself out of the whole birthing situation.
oh,
But
good.
nosy, I definitely wandered
Of
up
course.
like, is it a baby yet? Is the baby yet? And
Oh
I
my
did have
God.
to like be up there when she did give birth to the baby. So I heard him cry and come out.
Oh,
Just,
oh, that's so precious.
full moment when the labor is finally over and you hear
Wow.
the baby cry. And you
I
know,
can't imagine.
and I got to
Yeah.
hold the baby too. Yeah.
Stop it. Oh,
My heart was
my
so
ovaries are like real fluffy right now. That's
sad.
crazy. Wow, that's fantastic. I could not literally could not imagine. That's beautiful though. All right, so now that I've taken up enough time of that conversation, that story, right? All right, let's get down to it. So, I actually have a good question for you here. How does flying affect your dating life? I knew you gonna make that. I knew it was gonna make you smile with that one.
How does it affect it?
Mhm.
I've
Like,
never dated anyone who complained about me being a flight attendant, not to
okay,
my face, at least. Um,
okay.
I don't think that my job necessarily affects my dating life, to be honest. I think it's just more so like the people that I choose to interview.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, because I guess it's difficult for me to answer that question because no man has ever been like, I can't date you, you're a flight attendant. Or, you work too much. Like I have
You do too much, yeah.
yeah, I haven't had that complaint. It's other things
Uh-oh, uh-oh. I was gonna say, that might be a whole nother episode. The other things.
that they complain about. And I mean, sometimes it might be because I'm not clingy either. So
Mhm.
like I like to go away, miss you. And then we have
Yeah.
our like set thing, like where we hang out every Friday or Friday, Saturday,
Mhm.
and then you do your thing. Like, I don't know.
So it's not a scheduling issue for you.
No, not
Yeah.
because I don't need that everyday type
Yeah.
type of love.
What about
'Cause
what about
I'm not
trust?
sleeping alone, like, I
Yeah.
love stretching out,
Say that one time.
but I'm very affectionate at the same time, but it's just need I'm not clingy, I don't need
You don't
you
need all that.
in my space all the time. Yeah.
Okay, so what about trust issues? Have you ever had a date or somebody that you're in a relationship with or dating or whatever the case is that had an issue with trust when you were flying? Because I know I've actually heard a lot of flight attendants talk about, oh, well, so and so keeps calling or they don't trust me or they think I'm out here just doing whatever. And that's one thing I think that a lot of people always say, oh, so you just can get anybody in any state or you got multiple people in any state. And I'm like, really?
I've heard
Like,
that from guys that I'm not dating seriously. Guys that I date seriously,
mm-hmm.
they trust me, but guys who are out here on their BS, of course,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, I know you got a boyfriend over here. You used to date a guy that lived here. Like, I mean, sometimes you get caught up in conversations and or you like, oh, I used to date a guy that lived in Houston.
I
And then
mean, nowhere.
go to Houston, oh, are you seeing that
You
man?
see
Like,
it so and so. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
I've had that.
has come up before, but most of the trust issues have always been with
Mhm.
guys that I don't care if they trust me or not.
Yeah. Okay, okay, I hear that. That's
That
funny.
was
Okay.
it was a guy that I dated seriously, and my friend invited me to like a Valentine's Day, something before Valentine's Day, in Vegas. So I went.
Mhm.
It was like a little party. I was back in time for Valentine's Day with him, and at this party,
Mhm. I see where this is going.
they had party favors, and they were condoms, and so my friend was like, "Grab some," so I grabbed some, and I stuck like two in my wallet, and
That's
I
hilarious.
remember coming back home, and I was at his house, and my wallet was on the dresser, and
Mm-mm.
I took
Mm-mm.
it out of it, and then he's like, "Why do you have condoms in your wallet?"
Well,
Right, so
well,
I tell
long story.
the story, and he did not believe me.
I'm sure he didn't. I am absolutely sure he didn't.
He didn't believe me.
That's
That might have been the
listen.
downfall of that relationship, but
Yeah, well,
I was
listen.
telling the truth.
I was gonna say, though I feel like sometimes those relationships, if they're not meant to be, they're not meant to be. And whether it's something small now or something big later, you're gonna figure it out. You know what I mean? So
But
it is what it is. And there's so many relationships that actually work, whether you meet the person on the plane or not, or whatever the case is. If you trust and there's communication, I feel none of this actually matters. Where however long you're going, like I'm on a 4-day right now in Chicago, right? So if I'm in Maryland, I live in Maryland. So I'm like, if I'm dating a guy that's in Maryland, I'm like, you can't trust me for 4 days away. That's on you, not me. You know what I mean? If I'm talking to you and we're having communication, whatever the case is, that's not on me. That's whatever drama, whatever issues you got, work on it, right? So,
facts,
all
big
right.
facts. So
Hello.
you have your dating woes.
My dating. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, listen, that dating rules and the dating world is a whole different episode. All right. All right. So next question. What is something you've actually learned about yourself since taking this position?
It's so many things, so many ways that I've grown as
Mhm.
a woman, as a person, in this career. And one thing I've learned about myself is that I'm very impatient.
Mm.
People
Elaborate.
can say that, but I'm very impatient. Like I don't have time. I Before this job, I'm like, I don't have time to wait. I don't have time to wait. But this job is a hurry up and wait type of job. You on
Yes.
delays,
Yes.
like cancellations, on hold with scheduling, on hold.
Maintenance.
Yeah, like it's
Mhm.
always something. You're in the air for hours. The flight time is the flight time. Like, and you can't change that. We're landing at this time. Oh, we might divert. A diversion could take 2 hours. Like, there's
Uh,
just so much waiting and being patient in this
yep.
job. And I learned that I wasn't very patient when I first started this job. And even going into the 1 year, 2 year mark, and then I just learned, like, I've been in so many situations where my patience is tested. So I've definitely been humbled and I've come down and I use my time in the air more wisely. Like I'm being more positive. Like I like being disconnected. Like sometimes
Mhm.
when we're flying, like that's my time to be disconnected from the internet.
Yep.
That's when I'll read a book or maybe have a conversation. I can be a conversationalist, if it feels right.
Yeah. The right
Like,
person, right time.
maybe converse with someone,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
a passenger, maybe my coworker, who knows?
Yeah.
Like, so that's what I've learned. I was very, very extremely impatient, and obviously, I still have those spurts in me. It doesn't
Mhm.
go away. I still catch myself like saying screaming the F word at the top of my lungs when I'm frustrated and irritated. But
You're hilarious.
you keep walking around like, yeah. So I learned that I was very impatient, but I've learned to be patient and just to live
Mhm.
the moment,
Yeah.
just
Oh, yeah.
present. And
This job will teach you that, that's for sure.
yeah, it has humbled me in so many ways. Like even being
Mhm.
furloughed was very humbling because it's like you had the best job in the world. Like you thought you were doing something, and now
Mhm.
look
Yeah.
at you,
Now
unemployed.
look at you. And it's funny because I actually did feel like that
Yeah.
before the furlough, before COVID and the whole pandemic. I had a line. Okay, we'll get into what a line is and reserve and all that in just a second. But I had a line, which is basically a full schedule, and I was feeling good. I paid off all my debt. Girl, I thought I was like hot stuff out here, and I was like, all right, she did that, right? I'm good, right? And then all of a sudden, COVID hit. We got furloughed, and then I had to go back to a 9 to 5. And so I'm just like, how long is this gonna last? I'm like, "Wait, can you come back to me now?" And literally, after working, what was that? I guess 6 years at the time, maybe 5 years at the time of, furlough, and I was like, "I haven't had a regular job in 5 years. What am I gonna do?" You know what I mean? But really, and that is the most humbling that I think you have, because you have to go back to the beginning, like, "Okay, what are my skills outside of flying?" You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or how can I take the skills that I've learned from flying and where can I put that? You know what I mean? So it's interesting that you said humble because I felt that in the worst way. So let's go to the next question before I get all crazy over here. So a lot of our audience wants to maybe become a flight attendant, whether they're male or female, they're not sure what this life is about. So I wanted to know if you could basically let them know what a reserve is and what a line holder is and kind of how that works.
A reserve is basically the person you're sitting on call. A reserve is sitting on call just in case a line holder calls out of their trip or if operational needs. A reserve is just there for operational needs, and you get a minimum hours for the month, and then whatever you fly over, you get. If you fly over your guarantee, you get more. A line holder, they control their life. They control their schedule. They control where they go or don't want to go, how many hours they work, less or more. So that's really the difference for me.
And what are you right now?
I'm on reserve.
On reserve.
Yeah.
So, okay. That you don't have to look so very sad when you say it. You don't have to do that. For the ones who can't hear her, she has a pout right now.
Definitely runs my life.
No,
That's
see,
crazy.
and I was gonna say, so reserve to me, and I did reserve probably about 3 or 4 years, and I'm actually gonna go back on reserve now that I'm an international purser. So, but a reserve basically, in from what I understand or from what I experienced, is basically what Bri said. You're just kind of on standby, whether you're at home on standby or at the airport on standby. You are guaranteed a certain amount of hours, which is a certain amount of pay at said rate for those hours, and you can get calls up I think a minimum of 3 hours now, right, from departure, or 4 hours from departure, something like that. And I guess it changes from airline to airline, but you get called basically down to a minimum amount of hours, and you have to be at the airport within 3 to 4 hours of departure. So once that's the case, then it just feels like you always have your phone in your hand. You know what I mean? You don't have necessarily the same protections as a line holder. And a line holder basically is somebody who knows their schedule. For us, it's about 2-3 weeks ahead of time. So you know what you're gonna work. You can start to trade it with other line holders. Basically, you just have a full schedule, full time schedule.
Right.
And you know where you're going, and you can trade and do those things. Now, when it comes to what we're about to do now, which is the international purser, and I say we go on reserve on that end because there are international purser line holders and international purser reserves. So it basically works the same as a regular reserve and a regular line holder, but now it's international. You know, that's just the only real difference. Have you ever dated someone that you met on the plane? Oh, then that's a yes with the smile and the giggle.
Have you?
Yeah. Actually, I have. I've dated probably like 5 people that I've ever met on the plane.
Wow,
Yes.
that's
Well, damn.
It's about one. I guess I don't be meeting nobody.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a social butterfly. Yeah, no, for sure.
I'm not. I'm one of those. You see the memes? You know the memes on Instagram where it's like, "This is girls flirting," just like staring at you.
No.
That's me.
Just staring
I'm
at you.
just gonna be like,
Oh no.
no.
Hey, how you doing? How's your flight? Oh, girl, yeah, no, I'm a talker. I'm a social butterfly, if you will.
You know, I'm getting better at it, but I definitely was. I'm not that
You
person.
just give them the eyes. You're like, hey, Big Daddy, what's up?
Sometimes I get super awkward. Like I don't know.
Really?
It's
Well, listen,
just
I got you.
I'm weird, but sometimes I just get awkward. Like I'll be making eye contact, and then I expect for them to be like, "Come here," or something.
And I think that's not my personality. I was always the really skinny girl that guys just did not come up to. So I have gotten into the habit, whether good or bad. This is a whole different episode on that too. That I go up, and if I see a guy I like, I'm just like, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you." Or I'll tell a guy like,
I
"Nah,
applaud
I
you.
don't do it.
Your thing.
I don't do it too often, but I might be like, "Hey, handsome, how you doing?
Is
How's
somebody
life going?"
I
I'm like,
say I've never done it before, but I don't do
yeah.
it.
Oh no, that's a me thing. That's me. And I feel like for me, closed mouths don't get fed. If I see something I like, I'm gonna say it. You ain't gotta like me back, but you gonna know I like you. You gonna know that I see something I like.
I like that.
Listen, I'm outspoken, honey. You got to know. That's how you get them, right? All right, I'm being silly. So I'm gonna have a couple more questions for you, and then I'm not gonna hold you too much longer. But I wanted to ask you, what keeps you flying?
At this point, the fact that I got the international purser position is keeping me.
Talk to him. Talk to him with the one time.
I don't know how it's gonna be, but the idea of me being able to fly one leg there and one leg back all the time for however long I decide to stay in this program or position is like, it's just what the doctor ordered. Because honestly, I was getting so tired of those red eyes, those 5 legs a day. Like, I
Oh.
just really just time for a change. And I think like what keeps me flying, to answer your question, is like the flexibility that we have, the opportunity to do other things and to have options. Like I don't know about you, but I like options. Like I'm not a one or the other. I'm not a, oh, the house or the wedding. I want both. Give me both.
Hello. Hello.
Like, okay, French fries, onion rings, both.
It's my kind of girl right there. We need it all. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
like
you.
I want to have my cake and eat it too. I mean, I know it's not always possible, and it's been a long journey. I mean, obviously 6 years, all the ups and downs, but the flexibility of the job is what keeps me here, keeps me flying, keeps me wanting to be here. And the option to take as many leaves as you want. Like you can take a month off, fly, take a month off. Like that is fabulous.
Yep.
Like I've been off for
Yep.
a whole month. It's been vacation.
I
But
love it.
like it's just been a whole month off of me like just getting reacquainted with myself, spending time with my puppy, like
The brand new baby.
babe, just not being in the house that I pay rent in every day. Like
Hello. Hello.
things that people take for granted. Like if you work a regular job, you work from home or you come home every night. Like we don't come home every night.
Yeah, I get that. And that makes sense to me. What do you want to say to the folks that when they meet you, they want to talk about those buddy passes? What you got to say to them?
I don't have
No, thank you. That's the one thing I think that bugs me the most. When I meet somebody and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a flight attendant." "Oh, you got buddy passes." And I'm like,
it's a natural eye roll.
well, first of all, I'm annoyed because that's always the first thing I hear. So whether you thought that was a joke or not, it ain't funny. I'm over it. Joke's tired, right? So now I'm tired of you and I don't want to talk to you no more. But it's just it's funny. So I was always curious what other people have to say about that because that is always the first thing I hear. Always.
Yeah, no, it's always the first thing I hear too. And it's just like, I'll be like, it's safer to just buy your own ticket. Just buy a ticket. Like, if you want to go to Miami, you get a $200 flight from Spirit. Like,
Baby.
it's,
Southwest had $79 trips, okay? Come on.
yeah, I'm just like, it depends on what you're using it for. And I only give buddy passes to my close friends.
The only people I use that my buddy passes are my family and my friends. You traveling with me or not? That's it. That
Nobody who's used my buddy passes has ever traveled with me, except for my
really?
once. Yeah, nobody
No.
travels with me. I'm a solo traveler.
And see, that's what I love. Now, I started out traveling solo, and as I've gotten into the job longer, I've had more friends that are like, "Okay, now I got some money. Let's go." Like, where I'm like, "Okay, now," because I'm not taking no broke folks with me. You got to have your own, and let's go. You know what I mean? I think one though, as I get older now, I'm 32. I had to think about that for a second. I'm 32, so to me, I feel like in your 30s, you have a little bit more pocket change. You can do a little bit more. So I think it's just fun. And I just love being able to travel with my ladies and have my family and my friends that like to fly with me. You know what I mean? So I think those are fun. So what change would you like to see in the aviation industry?
The change that I would like to see is one that we're already seeing, which is more Black people, Black men, and Black women taking more of a front role in the industry. Like, we have Black Flight Attendants USA, like we
Mhm.
have like programs dedicated to Black people, and I love it because, like you were saying earlier, representation matters. Like, period. Everybody
Absolutely does.
these people that they look up to in these higher positions, and us as Black people, the only people that we've seen in these higher positions, they've been killed, they're martyrs, they're in prison. Like, there is no, like, I wanted to be a flight attendant because I saw a Black woman. I was 14
Mhm.
years old. That was like umpteen years ago. But like now you see like more Black people are traveling, more families are
Mhm.
together. So I love how like just is how blackety black things are starting to be, and how
You better
it's
say it.
to like transition for us. So I like that. I would love to
Mhm.
see like an all black airline or something. I'm honestly
Ugh.
that would be lit. I mean, they
I
say
was gonna say, I guess in some parts of the world, I guess theoretically you would already have that, right?
yeah. Oh yeah, and like Africa
Theoretically.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, it
Maybe
might not be necessarily, like, considered a black airline, but all the people are black, you know what I mean? I get that. Okay. So what is your most favorite and least favorite aspect about being a flight attendant?
my most favorite, I mean, just traveling, like getting up and going. Um,
Mhm.
being home for a month, I have not traveled, so like it's kind of like I have an itch. Like now, I need to go, and I'm like, I couldn't imagine. I mean, we were on furlough for all those months, but honestly, that was relaxing. Like
Yeah.
I knew we
It was
were,
a lot going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
like that was cool. Like that was relaxing, but like being off by choice for a month is totally different. And I love being able to get up and go. I love the excitement, the adventure. Like you never know what you might know where you're going, but don't know what you're gonna do. Like it's like, oh, you fly with a crew and they're like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. You
Mhm.
may have not had plans, then all of a sudden, like things just fall into place. So
Happens to me all the time.
right, the element of surprise.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing about being a flight attendant would have to be being on reserve. Crew scheduling, calling me at 1 a.m. Honestly, like reserve life is very humbling. It's very exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't have the flexibility that you have as a line holder. And if you know
Mhm.
best of both worlds, as you and I both know, like it's line holder or cup holder. So, like,
Not cup holder. Not cup holder.
holder or no holder, like I don't want to. You low key like don't want to be here sometimes. It's like they're
Aw.
yeah. So I think
So
that
how often do you get called at 1 a.m. in the morning? Does it happen often?
not lately. When I first came back to work in October, oh my god, I had a crash pad out by Dulles, and I mean I have a vehicle too, but I got called at like 1 in the morning for a 5 a.m. show in Baltimore. Like that was not fun. So
Yeah,
I'm just
that
like
happens.
it does, and it was happening all that month, and I think I cried.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I cried at some point, but then I kind of started to get a hold of it and kind of like making sure I preference at night. Like you really have to be
Mhm.
on top of it. Like you have to
Yeah.
have a whole plan and schedule when you're on reserve, a schedule for scheduling. You know,
Yeah.
so
But, that's very true. Because when I was on reserve, for me, it took and honestly took about a year for me to actually get the hang of everything and kinda, like, figure out a routine for myself and just kinda figure out how I'm gonna do it. It was a lot because even at one point, I was living in Maryland and I was driving to Newark. So it's like you have so much flexibility, but at the same time, when you're on reserve, your time is not really yours. And I think that's the hardest thing to grasp initially because if you're coming from a regular 9 to 5 job or like a regular everyday job, coming into this job, it's a lifestyle change.
right.
And I think I wasn't prepared because I in my brain it was just a job. And then once I actually got into it, I'm like, okay, my whole life is now different. You know what I mean? So I definitely get that. Yeah. And I don't think that people understand that enough coming in. For anybody out there who is interested in becoming a flight attendant, what advice do you have for them?
But
Absolutely.
I would say you have to be flexible. Like you have to be open
Mm,
to flexibility. You have to get used to being alone. People are not always
yes.
want to do things with you, go out with you, like, and you're gonna feel sad. I think the first couple months I felt sad about that, and then I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be sad in this hotel room and not seeing a world, or I'm gonna go out here and create memories on my own.
Mhm.
People ask random strangers to take my pictures, and that's what I
Mhm.
did. It just makes the job so much differently. Don't self pity over what you don't have. because a lot of people do that too. Like, my crew didn't want to go out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, then you go out. Like, you have to
You're
build that.
still there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would tell people that, and just have fun. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself or the people around you. Like, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Come in with an open mind, because in a flexible lifestyle, because it's not anything like what you think it is.
Yes.
And you don't
That's the
know
one
if
thing.
you're actually immersed in it. But I was so open that I think that it was kind of like a smooth transition for me a little bit.
Mhm.
I knew I wasn't going to be making about a lot of money in the beginning. I had a little bit saved up. I lived with family my first 6 months, and I was blessed. I
Yeah.
think I summed it up. I was just blessed when I first started. But to final thoughts on the question is just be flexible, have fun, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Like, you can do it.
I would agree with that. For me, coming in, I would say any advice to some folks is just research as much as you can, learn as much as you can. And that's kind of why I was doing this podcast. I knew I had a lot of people say, oh, I really wish I could do that, or, oh, I could never do that, and this and that. And I'm like, actually, hold on. It's not such a difficult thing. I think the lifestyle is what gets a lot of people. The hardest thing was going away for training. Because for me, I think it was 5 weeks. Was it 5 weeks for you as well?
6.
6 weeks. Okay. So 5 or 6 weeks for training. I think that was probably hard because I was like, oh God, like what, this is going to be a long time. What am I going to do? Or is this the right thing? I had a lot of anxiety there. And then from the training, I got based in Newark. Now, I think a lot of people don't realize you have to be ready to relocate. Like that's it. Like you could, of course, get sent to your home state or home base, which is fine.
You never know, like, it might be good for you to be taken out of your comfort zone. I mean, I was ready to relocate, so they could have sent me to Antarctica, and I would have been like, oh,
Not Antarctica. You have to be ready to relocate, even if you don't actually end up relocating. But that's something you need to know. And wherever you relocate, at least for us, we only have to be there for 6 months, right? So that's not a big thing necessarily. Now it did take me 10 months initially to be transferred from Newark to DC. So you can put your transfer in at
right.
6 months, but you might not get there in 6 months. So you have to be ready. But I think for me, the biggest thing is just understanding. I was a real type A person, and I was like, all right, this is my plan. I have to stick to it. There's nothing, it can't change. Baby, this job has changed me. Now I'm like, whatever. I'm like, whatever happens, I'm with it, whatever. And I think that's part of the humbling that you were talking about, because it can change you. And I think a lot of people may not be ready for certain things. They might not last long in this position. If you are able to become flexible and you're ready and you're just open, there's so much that can happen. And you can just, there's so many beautiful places that I never imagined that'd be.
Right.
Matter of fact, where have you been? Can just off the top of your head, where have you been since you started working here?
Rome, Barcelona, Paris, China. What is it?
Lagos.
Japan. I haven't been to Lagos. Ghana, Switzerland.
It's beautiful. And of course, yeah, I was gonna say, of course, places in the States, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. So I think that's one of the best things that I can suggest. And I'm so happy that you got to join me today. I appreciate you showing up, mama. So once again, congrats on the 6 years. Congrats on becoming an international person, honey. Okay.
International person as well.
Thank you. I'm so happy, and I really appreciate you coming and talking with our viewers and our listeners. But once again, thank you. And to my Next Stop Nonstop family, I want to remind you that as a new podcast, it's extremely helpful when our listeners actually write a review on Apple. Make sure to tag at Next Stop Nonstop in your comments, or if you have any topic suggestions, or if you just have a question for me. And until we meet again, I wish you all healthy minds and happy travels.